hopefully another entertaining episode of Create Simple Meals. So today we're going to do some simple burgers, maybe not so simple, and some onion rings, some homemade onion rings. I asked my daughter what she wanted for dinner tonight, and she's like, burgers and onion rings. I'm like, all right, well, let's do it. You want to make them kind of spicy? She was like, yeah. So we're going to do the homemade onion rings. And for that, all we're going to have is half a cup of vinegar, about a quarter cup of sugar, a teaspoon of cornstarch, and some water. You're going to make a slurry with that. We're going to bring all that to a boil after we've caramelized off some onions, some jalapenos, and some red bell peppers. That's going to be the sauce for our burger. For the onion rings, it's real simple. We're going to take some onion rings. We're going to dip them in some already seasoned flour. So we have in here about a cup and a quarter of flour with a teaspoon of baking powder and a teaspoon of salt. That's already been whisked up. We're going to dip our onion rings into those, dust them off, and then we're going to add in an egg and milk, and we're going to mix that together to make a batter. We're going to batter the onion rings, and after that, we're going to roll them in some panko breadcrumbs, let them sit and kind of drip all the excess batter off, and then we're going to deep fry those to go along with our burger. So let's get started, folks. First thing we're going to do is we're going to start on our relish. So we got here, we have our pan. Let's get it on and put this on about medium, and we're going to add in a little bit of oil to that. Once that gets up and running, we're going to add to that some already prepared onions and bell pepper and jalapenos. So we've seeded and diced up the jalapenos, the onions, and the bell pepper, and we're going to get that started here. So as soon as this oil comes up, as always, y'all know I like my handy dandy gadgets. As soon as that oil gets up, then we'll start caramelizing off these onions and bell peppers. As always, folks, this show is brought to you by the Self-Employed Tax Guy and Self-Lodge Planning. So for all your business consultation needs and your tax needs, please hit up the Self-Employed Tax Guy. And for your family, group, and individual travel, please hit up Self-Lodge Planning. Again, if you're just now tuning in, today we are doing burgers and onion rings. We're getting our oil hot right now to caramelize off these onions, bell peppers, and jalapenos. And we're going to make a quick relish to go on to these burgers. And then we're going to get started on our onion rings. So this oil is just about right. Let's go ahead and start cooking these off. All right, once these get kind of nice and soft and a little bit of caramelization, then we're going to add in the rest to start working on that. While we're waiting on that, let's go ahead and start getting on with the onion rings. So for those, we already have our cut up onion rings, and we're going to dust these off into the flour. We're going to just dust them. We're going to just set them off to the side for right now. And again, this is just some flour that we've seasoned with some salt and a little bit of baking powder. Actually, we can put a couple of them in there at a time. We just want to get a nice coating on there so that when we batter them up, it will stick. All right, we got a good couple of those battered up. Let's do a couple of more. And now we're gonna switch off and work on this. Work on our relish some more. Uh-oh. That fell in there. It got kind of hot. All right, so now those are kind of cooked down a little bit. We're gonna take to that and we're gonna add in a little bit of sugar. I'm using brown sugar. We're gonna use a cup and a half of some vinegar. So that's a half, and that's a cup. I'm gonna mix that off in there, bring this to a boil, and then we're gonna let that simmer. So while it's doing this thing, get back off into these onion rings. So, as I told you, we dusted off the onion rings. You know what? Let's toss in just a couple of more for the sake of having extras. Like I say, nothing real complicated. Just want to get a nice dust on them. Again, if you're just now tuning in, today we are doing some burgers with a spicy relish that we're making. That relish is made with onions, some jalapenos, and some diced bell peppers. We've already poured in some vinegar and some brown sugar, and we're letting that simmer off. For the onion rings, take some onions. You're gonna dust them off in some flour, about a cup and a quarter of flour, with some baking soda, a teaspoon of baking soda, teaspoon of salt. And for that, we're gonna add an egg and make a batter for them. All right. And as always, folks, this show is brought to you by the Self-Employed Tax Guy and Self-Lodge Planning. So again, for your business consultation needs and your travel needs, please hit up Self-Lodge Planning for your travel, and hit up the Self-Employed Tax Guy for your business consultation needs. This is now getting it in. Now to this, we're going to add in, make a quick slurry of about a teaspoon or so of water and some cornstarch. And gonna make a nice quick little slurry. And we're gonna mix that in here and just let that simmer up. This is to just thicken it up a little bit. We'll mix that in there. Bring that down to a simmer. And we kind of ain't got to worry about that for the time being anymore. Now, let's get to the rest of the recipe. So, now we're going to add in, well, I'm using 2 eggs because I'm making a little bit more than the recipe calls for. But we're going to take in some eggs and about a cup or so of milk. And you're going to mix this up with that existing flour. You're gonna make you a nice little batter for these onion rings. So you're gonna just mix that up. Get that nice and mixed. And it says a cup of milk, but a couple more. I mean, you be the judge. You don't want your batter too runny. And you also don't want it too thick either. Nice and mix. Try to get as many lumps out of it as you can. Kind of like if you're making cornbread. While that's, I'm gonna let that sit for a second, and I'm gonna go ahead and toss these burgers onto the grill. Now for the burgers, just salt and pepper. Not really part of the show, so I'll turn my back to y'all for just a quick second. Grab us some salt and pepper. Echo, set me a timer 3 minutes. While that's doing that, we can go ahead and get to now we're going to start battering up these onion rings. So, give me some space to work here, because what you want to do is you want to dip them into your batter, shake off any excess you can, then you want to roll them in the panko. Always try when you're dealing with batters, keep you a dry hand and a wet hand. Give them a nice shake, get the excess off, and then go from there. We're going to put a few of these in the batter at a time so we can move a little bit faster. We're going to get these nice and battered up. Then we're going to take breadcrumbs and we're going to coat these off. Okay, folks, we're done with our burgers. We're going to just cover these up for right now and let those rest and finish up. Toast us some buns off and finish up frying our onion rings. Okay, folks, as you see, this relish has now cooked down to reduced by half. We're gonna go ahead and turn this off and let this start cooling down. We can move it out of our way for right now. But as you see, there's real nice color in there to cook down those onions, bell peppers, and jalapenos. Then that vinegar and that sugar made it a nice relish. So we're gonna let that cool, and that's gonna go on our burgers. And now we're gonna get over here and start deep frying our onion rings. Alright folks, the onion rings have finally come out. Go ahead and show you what these look like. So we got our onion rings out now. Move these breads up the way. Got a nice crisp on these onion rings. And now something just hit me. I was thinking, why not kick this up just a little notch and let's make another sauce. So I'm going to make a sriracha sauce with just a little bit of mayonnaise, a little bit of sriracha, and some sweet pickle relish. We're going to mix that up, and that's going to go on these burgers as well. All right, folks, we're gonna get us a little bit of mayonnaise in here. We're gonna put into that just a squirt or two of some sriracha and a little bit of sweet pickle relish. We're gonna make this into a nice little aioli of sorts to go on top. Add a little bit more of this, but I know my daughter kind of likes it spicy. Get that taste. That will definitely work. All right, so now let us get to constructing our burger. We're gonna put a little tomato, a little bit of lettuce, some of this aioli we have on here, and of course, these onion rings. So let's grab us some space here. We're gonna take just a little bit of this spicy sriracha aioli we just made. To that, we're gonna add on just a couple of pieces of lettuce. Let's add in, where did I, oh, here we are. Let's add in, I got 2 burgers here. Got my cheese all on them. But you gotta have them extra cheesy. We'll put that on. Put these out of the way. To that, let's add in, I can use this, a little bit or a lot of bit of that, get this better in the shot, of that relish and a couple of these. Until next time, remember, when it comes to cooking, there's absolutely only 3 rules you have when it comes to cooking. You must have passion, you must have patience, and you must be willing to practice. See you again right here on Create Simple Meals.